So we have moved our entire website over to an environment managed both by Department of Consumer Affairs and CSLB. But it also continues to be hosted at the State Data Center, which allows us to maintain CSLB's critical IT infrastructure in a Tier 3 data center. And this will be represented in the box in the middle. This new design enables us to replicate our data virtually in real time to DCA in case of a disaster, while we also have the latest backups in a secondary recovery site in Fresno. Now with the data protected and available in multiple locations, we are concentrating our efforts to ensure all servers, whether they are hosted at CSLB headquarters or the State Data Center, are updated with the latest security patches and running current applications, and also to our operating system software. If you would turn with me to page 78 of the IT strategic plan update. For item 5.13, DCA's Office of Information Services provided us with the requirements for e-signatures, giving us the ability to align our objectives with item 5.14, where we continue to evaluate online products to assist us with authentication, authorization, and licensee user management. Continuing on to objective item 5.16, CSLB IT continues its online accessibility and has updated over 5,100 online documents to make them ADA compliant. We will continue to make all future documents ADA compliant available on our website. Objective item 5.21. CSLB developers are enhancing the SCORE application, which is a system used by our CSLB exam development unit to develop and store test data. This will conclude the information technology update. I'm available if the board has any questions.
Any questions from the board?
Hi, this is Susan Granzella. Frank Altamura and I were the IT committee. We were able to meet with Jason after a period of time, and Jason, you did a great job in presenting where our data is stored and giving us a better understanding of how that is all managed. So great job, Jason, and your staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other board comment? Okay, seeing none. Jason, thank you for your report. Shelley, is there any public comment?
Not seeing any chats, no Q&A requests, and no hand raises.
Outstanding. So that was strictly informational, so no board actions required. Next, D8. Here we go. The election of officers. At our March 25th, 2021 board meeting, I appointed Kevin Albanese and Johnny Simpson to the nomination committee to recommend to the board a slate of officers for the positions of chair, vice chair, and secretary. I now turn the floor over to Kevin and Johnny to announce the recommended slate of officers. Kevin, the
morning. Thank you, David. Johnny Simpson and I have been honored and enjoyed serving on the nomination committee. Thank you. We recently met to consider the requests of our fellow board members for the 3 officer positions, and our recommendation is as follows. We recommend and nominate Susan Granzella for chair and Mary Teichert for vice chair. For the position of secretary, 2 board members have requested consideration for the secretary position, Diana Love and Michael Mark. Based upon multiple board member interest, coupled with the fact that this is the first time many board members will go through the election process, it is the nomination committee's recommendation that the board consider both Diana Love and Michael Mark for the position of secretary, and that both Diana and Michael be provided with the opportunity to address the board. With that, I turn it back to you, Chair De La Torre, to proceed with the elections.
Okay, thank you both. We will now begin the nomination process. For each officer position, I will state the nominated candidate and the committee recommends. Let me repeat that. I will state the nominated candidate that the committee recommended. Then I will ask if there is a motion from the floor for any other individual board members would like to nominate. Candidates will then be given up to 3 minutes to make their statement or describe why they are qualified for the position. If there is only one nominee for the position, members can vote by yes, no, or abstain. If there are multiple candidates for a position, then board members will vote in alphabetical order by stating the candidate's name they support. The nominee to receive a majority of the affirmative votes will win that officer position. I will now proceed to the nomination for the office of chair. The committee recommends nomination of Susan Granzella. Are there any other nominations for the office of chair from the floor? Okay, seeing none, there being no other nominations, I will now close the nominations. Susan, care to make a brief statement?
Yes, I joined the board in late 2014, and it has been an honor to serve on the board throughout this period of time. I've been on all of the committees, worked on documentation, and we revised that, and on nominating committees, and I've been able to experience a lot of different tasks and responsibilities on the board. So I look forward to serving in that capacity, and I think that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Well, we also look forward to you serving. Shelley, are there any public comments?
I'm not seeing any hand raises, chat requests, or Q&A requests.
Thank you. Elise, I'll ask for roll call.
Kevin Albanese,
Enthusiastically, yes.
Frank Altamura,
Yes.
Augie Beltran,
Aye.
Ronnie Cobos,
Aye.
David Delatorre,
Aye.
Miguel Galarza,
Yes.
Don Giordano,
Yes.
Susan Granzella,
Abstain.
Diana Love,
Yes.
Michael Mark,
Yes.
Jimmy Wayne,
Yes.
Johnny Simpson,
Yes.
Mary Tykert.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Felice. Next is a nomination of vice chair. The committee recommends nomination of Mary Tykert. Are there any other nominations for vice chair from the floor? There being no other nominations, I will now close the nominations. Mary, care to make a brief statement?
Thank you very much. I'm honored by the nomination. I've appreciated my time on the board, and it's reemphasized the value of having a license in this state. The diligence of the staff has been impressive and helpful, and I look forward to being of additional help to the board, both in the current capacity in this office if I'm elected, and also with expanded opportunities for women and minorities. I've enjoyed the work we've been doing on that front and think there's a ton of opportunity for the board going forward. So thank you for the nomination.
Thank you for your willingness to serve. Shelley, any public comment?
Not seeing any chats, Q&As, or hand raises.
Thank you. Felice, roll call, please.
Kevin Albanese,
Another enthusiastic yes.
Frank Altamura,
Yes.
Augie Beltran,
Aye.
Ronnie Cobos,
Aye.
David Delatorre,
Aye.
Miguel Galarza,
Yes.
Don Giordano,
Yes.
Susan Granzella,
Yes.
Diana Love,
Yes.
Michael Mark,
Yes. Yes.
Jimmy Wayne,
Yes.
Johnny Simpson,
Yes.
Mary Tykert.
Abstain.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Felice. Last is the nomination of board secretary. The committee recommends that Diana Love and Michael Mark be considered. Are there any other nominations from the floor? Okay, seeing none, there being no other nominations, I will now close the nominations. I will ask each candidate to make a brief statement. Diana, would you care to make a brief statement?
Good morning. Yes, I would. Thank you for the nomination and the opportunity to speak. Again, my name is Diana Love. I live in Palmdale. I've been there for 20 plus years. I have a degree in gerontology under the study of aging. And I want to take this opportunity to continue my growth within CSLB, bringing in diversity and equity to keep active and engage in this important role on the executive officer position leadership role. I want to start by saying I was appointed by Governor Newsom in 2019 to represent a statewide senior organization. I am currently the chair of the Public Affairs Committee and a member on the Enforcement Committee for this body. I am also a member of the California Senior Legislature and the immediate past president and current second vice president of the Los Angeles Commission for Older Adults, and I'm also a member of several other organizations. I have 25 plus years of current and past public service and working history, working with children, older adults, age members with disabilities, LGBTQ+, mental health, legislation, nonprofit and secretarial and parliamentary duties give me the foundation for success in working in leadership positions within the communities in all 58 counties. And per the procedure manual of CSLB board administration and staff responsibilities, the secretary shall serve as the board's budget liaison with staff and shall assist staff in the monitoring and reporting of the budget to the board. I have the qualifications and public service and work history to complete those responsibilities. In addition to those responsibilities, I would like to have a more active role in the secretary position, and I am proposing that the secretary reviews the board minutes for accuracy prior to distribution. I'm looking forward to broadening my working relationship with other staff and board members, and I'm focused on supporting the significant progress that CSLB will bring in 2021 and beyond. Our vision is to always protect the consumers, and I am asking and would be honored to have your support and vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Diana. Michael, care to make a brief statement?
Hopefully you can see me. Yes, thank you, Board Chair. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak before the board on this nomination. I am looking to serve in this position as secretary. Just like Ms. Love, she is a great candidate for this board. I also would like to make sure and step up to the opportunity to serve the consumers of California in a more of a leadership role. I am a labor leader in my specific union, and as stated when I spoke and learned more about this specific position, dealing with budgets, I do deal with budgets within my own organization, and then also with the specific building trades. In the end, there's every board member on this, every board member is qualified here and wouldn't be here sitting here today for this specific position. I'm looking to serve the people of California in this more of a leadership role. When dealing with the consumers, this is a consumer-based organization, and my experience as a labor leader has done that, working for my specific people within the unions and making sure that all workers are lifted. And with my experience in the construction industry, we really do see the partnership of the working men and women that are out there with the contractors, and that is why it's great to make sure that the CSLB continues to be a success, making sure that there is enforcement, that there's licensing the contractors, and making sure that in the end, the consumer is protected in the state of California. So I don't really want to go into all my qualifications. My bio is up online, but specifically, I do want to say that I would appreciate your support, and also Miss Love is a great candidate as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Is there any public comment, Shelley?
Not seeing any hand raises, chat, or Q&A requests at this time.
Okay. Board members, you will need to state by name who you are voting for. Okay. Elise, roll call, please.
David Albanese,
Diana Love.
Frank Altamura,
Diana Love.
Augie Beltran,
Michael Mark.
Ronnie Cobos,
Michael Mark.
David Delatorre,
Michael Mark.
Miguel Galarza,
Diana Love.
Don Giordano,
Diana Love.
Susan Granzella,
Diana Love.
Diana Love,
Diana Love.
Michael Mark,
Abstain.
Jimmy Wayne,
Diana Love.
Johnny Simpson,
Michael Mark.
Mary Tygart,
Diana Love.
and Diana wins the nomination.
Well, congratulations to our new officers. Or officer.
Thank you so much.
The newly elected chair, vice chair, and secretary will assume the duties to their respective offices on July 1st. Congratulations. So moving on, moving to public affairs overview and update.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes,
I have a comment, since I do love documentation. On page 65, there was an administrative update that I believe we kind of we missed, and it's just a couple of pages, but I think the staff would like to go over that. We went directly to the information technology. Would that be okay?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Transparency is our main objective, right?
Right. And I'm not sure who on the staff is making this presentation, but
So if there's no objective from the board, if we can, we'll move back, or from the public, we'll just go back and report on this. Legal, is that legal?
Yes, that's fine. So we just need who will be presenting this item.
That would be me, Mr. Chair, Mike Melisa, Chief of Administration.
Okay, please proceed.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Good morning, members of the board. The Administration Division update begins on page 65 of your board packet. Information covering recruitment activities and personnel transactions in the personnel unit for the last quarter are covered on pages 65 and 66. As you can see on the chart on page 66, the average monthly vacancies are trending down. So that's good news there. The activities in the business services unit for the last quarter can be found on page 67. These updates include activities on our facilities, our contracts, and procurement. I'd like to have you turn to page 68 of your board packet, and I will focus on the CSLB training interest and survey results. CSLB Executive Staff commissioned a survey of employees regarding their training needs in mid-April 2021. The purpose was to obtain feedback directly from our staff on areas they were interested in learning more about and give our employees an opportunity to identify other areas of interest that management may not have been aware of. So in regards to additional training. The survey was distributed to CSLB employees on April 20, 2021, with a due date of April 26. Of CSLB's 430 employees statewide, 92 completed the survey, a response rate of 21%. The top 3 employee training subject areas that were identified were requests for accessing more information about CSLB's internal databases, which is TEAL. They've also asked for more information on solar code requirements, more training on that. And 3, how federal OSHA and Cal OSHA regulations impact California contractors. The entire list of training topics from the survey and the response rates are found in the table at the bottom of page 68 if you wanted to reference that. So the next steps would include creating, coordinating, and providing these training classes to all CSLB staff that address these training needs that they've identified. CSLB will provide these training classes to all of our staff throughout the state, up and down California, while considering social distancing requirements and protocols as required. And we'll use tools such as online training when needed. So this survey and its results assisted CSLB in prioritizing and identifying staff's training needs. So it was very helpful. I'll go on to the strategic plan items. Those are covered on pages 69 through 71. All of the items have been completed except for one last item, that's item 5.7. That is the standardizing of human resource processes to increase efficiency in regard to personnel matters. The target date for that is July 2021. Have to report that everything is on schedule there. I don't see anything that would hinder that. And so staff are in the process of creating a supervisory section for CSLB's intranet, and we're putting tools such as frequently asked questions, checklists, and we're uploading that section for supervisors to reference and help them out. That concludes my report on the activities of the Administration Division. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have for me at this time.
Thank you, Mike. Are there any board comments? Seeing none. Shelley, any public comment?
Not seeing any hands or requests in the chat or Q&A.
Outstanding, and I do apologize for overseeing that. And I want to thank board member Susan Granzella for catching that. So now we fast forward over to public affairs. I turn it over to Public Affairs Chair Diana Love.
Thank you, Board Chair. Again, my name is Diana Love, Chair of the Public Affairs Committee. I am on one of the board's public members and represent a statewide senior citizen organization. I am pleased to announce that Joya Imard has joined CSLB as the new Public Affairs Manager. Ms. Imard is a former journalist and marketing and communications professional. She comes to us from the Department of Water Resources, where she was a communications manager. Previously, she was an information officer in the Department of Consumer Affairs Office of Public Affairs and at the Board of Pharmacy. I recently met with Joya and executive leadership, and we discussed a possible social media campaign on the importance of using licensed contractors featuring seniors sharing personal stories. We also discussed conducting a licensee survey and revamping the newsletter. Under the Public Affairs Program Update, you can find the Public Affairs Update beginning on page 89. I will cover a few highlights. Disaster response is top of mind with staff, especially after Governor Newsom's recent drought emergency declaration in 2 counties. CSLB's post-disaster mission is to help ensure that home and business owners are not harmed by unlicensed or unscrupulous contractors who might try to take advantage of them during the rebuilding process. From July 2020 to March 31st, 2021, CSLB staff participated in 23 local assistance centers or disaster recovery centers. You can see that list on page 90. CSLB continues to serve on 2 Office of Emergency Services multi-agency task force, and in February, Public Affairs staff presented information for disaster survivors along with an invitation to partner with CSLB on disaster rebuilding workshops. As noted on page 91, CSLB's social media has played an important role in keeping licensees and consumers up to date on the changing availability for CSLB services during the pandemic. CSLB's social media followers have been increasingly regularly. Social media has also helped us share disaster-related information on the importance of checking a license. During the 2020 wildfires, CSLB's next door posts in declared disaster areas were seen by more than 415,000 people. Our team presented CSLB information at 5 virtual senior scam stoppers from January through March, with an average attendance of 25 to 50 people. CSLB will resume in-person seminars once health restrictions are lifted. Public Affairs released 5 consumer and licensee videos in the first quarter of 2021. Quick tips complaint form, spring home project tips, how to file a complaint, and a get licensed to build public service announcements video, and the landscaper versus gardener. I find these videos are great for sharing important information in an easy to understand manner. At this time, I would like to play one of the videos for you. Kevin, please play the video, The Landscaper versus Gardener, for the board.
Spring is here, and it's time to knock out some of those outdoor projects. So, do you hire a landscaper or a gardener? And what's the difference between them? Gardeners are generally focused on maintaining your yard, such as mowing, weeding, cultivating, and trimming shrubs. They're usually not required to have a state license unless they perform construction-related work or conduct any repairs that cost over $500 in labor and materials. Landscapers are typically involved in outdoor building work. Here are some common landscaping projects that require a license. For projects like these, look for active C27 landscaping contractors who are licensed by CSLB. Some projects, such as those that include artificial turf, vinyl swimming pool liners, or irrigation systems, may be performed by a C61 or D12 limited specialty or synthetic products contractor. C27 landscaping contractors who take on these projects may only perform the work in conjunction with a larger landscaping project. C27 landscaping contractors who take on pools, spas, or hot tubs must also hold a C53 swimming pool specialty license or subcontract with a contractor who holds the C53 license. Always remember, any construction project that is $500 or more in combined labor and material costs requires a state licensed contractor. Avoid getting scammed by doing your research, getting 3 bids, and checking references and job sites. For more tips on hiring a licensed contractor, visit cslb.ca.gov/10tips.
Thank you, Kevin. Turning back to the board packet, in January, CSLB released the 2021 Law Book and published the winter edition of the California Licensed Contractor newsletter. I also want to provide an update on some items from the 2019 through 2021 strategic plan, which begins on page 109. First, Item 4.5 requires researching the feasibility of creating a text alert program to communicate with licensees and consumers. Currently, mobile phone numbers are being voluntarily collected through online renewal and home improvement salesperson registration. IT is taking the lead on this effect and is researching identity management systems to allow licensees to update their licensing records with the added ability to send licensees notifications and reminders. Item 4.6 is to expand website content to keep industry and licensees up to date on relevant information. Colored banners and a new alert section were added to the CSLB website homepage, and the page layout was updated. Also, a new web page was created for posting and viewing videos. PAO is currently working with IT to develop a news web page to post articles. Under item 4.8, noted that Public Affairs would develop orientation videos. A new orientation video for new staff, managers, and board members has been completed. Item 4.9 is in partnership with IT to review and update the website to ensure information presented to the public is accurate and accessible. Since January 2021, Public Affairs has updated the homepage, clarified information on the senior scam stoppers and consumer complaint pages, and added a new web page for licensing refugees. Lastly, item 4.10 requires the online courses and content be created in partnership with enforcement and licensing. The Public Affairs team helped develop an online building permit compliance training course for licensees who failed to comply with local building department permit requirements. The training course was posted in May 2020 on CSLB's YouTube channel and promoted through social media. In 2021, 6 industry bulletins to educate licensees have been developed. As you can see, Public Affairs has been very productive this year. Are there any board members who have questions or comments? Shelley, does anyone from the public have any comments?
I am not seeing any hand raises or any requests through the chat or Q&A at this time.
Okay, thank you. Chair, that concludes the Public Affairs update.
Thank you, Secretary-elect, for your report.
Thank you.
Now we turn it over to, we go over to enforcement. We are now in the enforcement section of our agenda. I turn it over to Enforcement Committee Chair Kevin Albanese.
Thank you very much, Chair De La Torre. Enforcement program update begins on page 117 of your packet with investigation highlights followed by a statistical summary of enforcement activities. As demonstrated by the featured investigation highlights in the packet, the investigatory focus has been on the more egregious violators of contractors law. Specifically, I'd like to bring your attention to the highlight on page 118 entitled Additional Charges for Solar Violator. George Savinoff has been a focus of some of the most complex solar investigations. Mr. Savinoff has operated in the shadows with the assistance of multiple licensed contractors targeting vulnerable populations in the Central Valley and Southern California. The victims were often convinced under false pretenses to sign solar contracts paid for by complex financial agreements they simply couldn't afford. Additionally, the projects were commonly abandoned, leaving homeowners with a non-functional solar system in addition to unbearable financial burdens. In February of 2020, multiple CSLB investigations led to the filing of 22 criminal counts in San Diego County. Charges included theft by false pretense, diversion of construction funds, identity theft, and elder financial abuse. Due to the pandemic-related restrictions on custodial populations, Savinoff was not incarcerated, and yes, he continued to engage in predatory sales tactics and solar loan fraud. In May of 2021, he was arraigned for additional felony charges. The judge presiding over the case ordered him incarcerated and set bail at $175,000, including a stipulation that he could not use ill-gotten gains to pay for his bail. After about a week, he did post bail, but he continued to be held until he provided his passport because the court considered him a flight risk. He's now been released from custody, and his next court date is July 13th. Let's hope he shows up. On page 119, we have an investigation center licensee settlement example. A 92-year young World War II veteran was in contract with a licensed roofing contractor to complete $1,800 worth of a failing roof. Shortly after the project was completed, winter storm came and damaged some of the recently repaired roof. Homeowner made several attempts to contact a licensee, but to no avail. They turned to the CSLB, and our special investigator assigned to the case determined that the homeowner was not comfortable with the licensee returning and just preferred a refund. The investigator subsequently contacted the contractor, and the licensee not only agreed to pay a full refund, but the investigator took the extra measure and hand-delivered the restitution check to the very satisfied homeowner. Next, we'll look at a few statistics that begin on page 120. During fiscal year July 2020 to March 21, we initiated 11,479 investigations, which is 2,500 fewer than last year. The decrease in incoming complaints has resulted in lower caseloads in the investigation centers. These lower caseloads provide an opportunity for investigative center staff to increase proactive enforcement by educating non-compliant contractors on contract and business requirements. An example of this approach will be further discussed in the solar agenda item with implementation of the PUC net energy metering solar consumer protection investor-owned utility audit requirement, and yes, that's a mouthful. Back to SWIFT, we expect the return of the special investigators that had been previously assigned to contract tracing by the end of June. In anticipation of adequate staffing, SWIFT leadership is creating a sting calendar that will allow for the scheduling of one sting each month in the central, southern, and northern areas of California for the remainder of 2021. If any board members are so inclined, I would encourage you to get with the enforcement chief and see if you can join on one of those stings. They are a lot of fun. The SWIFT units are looking forward to partnering with industry for sting sites and identifying sting targets. So if you have a remodeled house or something that could be used as a site, please let SWIFT know. Until then, SWIFT remains hard at work as documented in the press release covering the results of the March 16th and 17th operation in Bakersfield. 14 individuals were cited for allegedly placing illegal bids on home improvement projects, and some did not carry the proper workers' compensation insurance for their employees. There was a second sting operation in April in the city of Clovis, located in Fresno County, where 25 suspects were identified, 12 of which were referred to the district attorney. Moving on to page 127 begins the summary of the enforcement strategic objectives. I'd like to provide an update on a couple of the items that are ongoing. Starting with item 2.7, provide training opportunities to improve morale and staff knowledge. I am happy to report that we've identified 2 dedicated trainers, Joshua Eisenberg and Christine Lee, CSLB's Attorney General liaisons. They have designed a training program that has been approved by the Supervising Assistant Attorney General Carl Son, and we look forward to kicking off this program in a couple months. Item 2.9 encourages the recruitment of individuals for available positions at CSLB, in addition to providing information on the path to licensure. In recent months, Geraldine Middleton, a special investigator based in Orange County Investigative Center, has conducted outreach to provide information about the contracting field, the licensing process, and the CSLB to members of underserved communities in Southern California. Thank you, Geraldine, for taking the lead and making an impact. This report is informational only, no action required from the board, but I will open it up for any comments from any board members. Any public comment, Shelley?
I am not seeing any hand raises or requests through the chat or Q&A.
Fantastic. Then we're going to go ahead and turn it over to Supervising Special Investigator 2, Cynthia Moore, to provide overview and highlights of the Intake Mediation Center. Cynthia has been a statewide program manager for CSLB's Intake and Mediation Program for more than 3 years. Cynthia, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Took me a second to get myself unmuted there. Can you hear me all right? I'm very excited to tell you about the Intake and Mediation Centers, also referred to as the IMCs. I could not be prouder of the highly motivated staff. The work they do is hard and makes a positive work environment mandatory. IMC staff work very hard because they truly care about the consumers and the contractors. They work effectively with all complaint parties to find the best resolution in the public interest. Now that the staff are physically apart, they frequently call and email each other. They share ideas to resolve disputes and overcome complaint handling obstacles. Consumers benefit from using a licensed contractor due to our highly motivated IMC staff that are here to help them resolve their dispute. They get great satisfaction from settling licensee complaints. If you walk through the IMC, you'll often hear little celebrations when someone has settled a case. Or you may hear them tirelessly explain to a consumer why they should not hire an unlicensed contractor, even if they charge less. You'll see family photos and birthday balloons at their workstations. If it's a holiday, you can be guaranteed an amazing potluck during lunch breaks. IMC staff save the public well over $20 million each year through restitution and corrective work. 50% of licensee cases are settled in the IMC. Think about that for a minute. We settle half of the consumer filed cases in the IMC with restitution to an injured party. These consumers never have to go through a full investigation or pursue civil recourse. Mind you, the board goal is just 30%. On average, IMC staff work 30 cases per month and appropriately disposition over 70% of the licensee complaints in one way or another. The cases that are not settled may be resolved because the violation was minor and an advisory notice or letter of admonishment was issued. We may also close a case because the consumer does not want to cooperate or if there's insufficient evidence to support a violation. This allows CSLB to handle the 12,000 plus complaints we receive annually, and the investigation centers can focus their resources on the most egregious cases. If we added the 70% to the investigators' workload, we would not be as effective in protecting California consumers as we are today. Let me give you a quick overview of what the mediation process looks like. The complaint process starts with a complaint form. Our most popular form is the consumer complaint form that's also used by unpaid subcontractors and suppliers, and even general contractors who have poorly performing subcontractors. We also have advertising, permit, and building department specific complaint forms. Our newest form is the solar complaint form that was added on April 23rd and is used only for solar projects. Staff use these forms to gather information about the complaint. CSRs review the complaint and the licensee's history to determine the best course of action. The CSR will typically call the consumer first to gather all the facts and determine how to settle the complaint. This can be a lengthy conversation, and when emotions are involved, it can be quite difficult. The CSR then calls the contractor to explain the items of complaint, point out potential violations, and attempt to settle the complaint. This settlement may be money to complete or correct the project, or the contractor may return and complete the work themselves. Once a settlement is agreed upon, the CSR will address any violations with the contractor and issue an advisory letter or a letter of admonishment as appropriate. CSRs are also authorized to cancel false workers' compensation exemptions, requiring the contractor to comply with workers' compensation insurance requirements within 45 days or have the license suspended. Mediation is not available for non-licensee complaints. The IMC identifies the non-licensee and sends the case to the investigative center for further investigation. Staff often find these to be the most disturbing of cases. Consumers have little chance of getting any money back. They often see seniors who are taken for substantial amounts of money and often left to live in a home with extremely poor workmanship. Therefore, we really take a lot of time to convince potential consumers to only use a licensee. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to brag about my staff. Are there any questions?
Cynthia, thank you so much for your, can you mute? Because you're getting background. Thank you so much for your efforts and the efforts of your staff. Most oftentimes, you are the face of the CSLB to the consumer, and you do just a fantastic job in your team. This item is informational. There is no action required of the board, but I would like to open up. There's any board comments on this item? And Shelley, are there any public comments?
I am currently not seeing any hand raises nor requests through the chat or Q&A.
Outstanding. Cynthia, thank you again very much for your report and for all the efforts that you and your team provide for the board. All right, Solar Task Force update and statistics. We are now on page 139 of your packet. This agenda item introduces the new solar complaint form and provides an update on the 2 decisions proposed by the PUC voted on at our March meeting of the board. Regretfully, the complaint form in the packet is the general consumer complaint form and not the specific solar complaint form. However, that form is depicted on this slide that Kevin's going to put up and is also available on the CSLB website. So here's the form. The solar complaint form aims to improve the efficiency of the processing and handling of these complaints, but it also collects valuable information that aids in our internal tracking processes, including identifying the primary reason for filing the complaint, and this information is required for an annual report as mandated by PUC, specifies how the customer financed the installation, requests the homeowner indicate if a battery storage system was included in the contract, and request permission from the homeowner to acquire utility documents for the purposes of an investigation easing privacy concern violations. On page 143 of your packets is an update on the 2 PUC proposed decisions that the board was briefed on at its last meeting. As page 143 indicates, the 2 decisions were modified as part of the PUC rulemaking process and reissued to stakeholders in May. Updates were made to the decisions as follows. As it relates to the Recovery Fund, the title of the proposal was changed from Recovery Fund to Assistance Fund, and the proposal previously did not consider solar consumers using PACE financing to be eligible for the fund, and the updated decision includes PACE users for Assistance Fund payout. As it relates to the enhanced audit proposal, it directs IOUs, investor-owned utilities. We have a lot of acronyms in this particular one, so I'll try to identify those. Directs IOUs to establish a web-based search engine that allows agencies like ours to retrieve new interconnection application data and documents. It requires IOUs to share its semi-annual spot audit of NEM, which I believe is the new connection. Somebody could help me out. The NEM connection applications with the Solar Task Force Agency. It requires IOUs to maintain a public list of solar providers who have violated CSLB, Public Utility Commission, or Department of Financial Protection and Innovation, as well as establish a procedure for those names to be removed from that list, and requires the IOUs to collect 2 additional pieces of information for the interconnection packets, the home improvement salesperson registration number, and the name of any entities financing the solar project. The board voted to support these proposals at its March meeting. Now, regarding the proposed Solar Recovery Fund, I received fantastic news last night that the legislature may allocate $5 million to provide restitution to financially injured solar consumers. Board members in attendance at the February 2021 Enforcement Committee meeting will recall PUC Commissioner Guzman Aceves' presentation regarding the PUC's possible establishment of a solar recovery fund. The commissioner mentioned that to ensure success of the recovery fund, it may be necessary to go to the legislature in addition to or instead of the PUC rulemaking about a recovery fund. On May 24th, 2021, after the packet was completed, CSLB learned about 2 letters requesting amendments to the budget bill, one from a senator, one from an assembly member. The letters request a one-time allocation of $4 million to be available for homeowners financially injured by residential solar systems. The proposal is $4 million for consumer restitution and $1 million for implementation and outreach. The letters propose that CSLB would determine the consumer eligibility for fund restitution, accept claims, and pay out amounts to victims. The letters propose the program will be based on the Nevada Residential Recovery Fund. This budget request was heard in the Senate Budget Committee as well as the Assembly Budget Committee on June 2nd, which was yesterday, and the budget item was passed without discussion. The proposal is sponsored by the Dolores Huerta Foundation in partnership with the California PUC, and based upon testimony and comments in both committees, it is likely, but not certain, that this proposal would be in the final budget. After the budget bill amendments get through the floor of both houses, there will need to be a budget trailer bill with legislative language to work out how CSLB could implement this fund. The legislature has till June 15th to pass the budget for this next fiscal year. CSLB staff will work with PUC staff and legislative staff to provide technical assistance on the budget trailer bill language. If this measure is a success, it will likely take the place of the establishment of that PUC recovery fund. CSLB staff will have a meeting with PUC next week to discuss next steps and will be actively engaged in workshops in the coming weeks to establish the procedures and protocols for implementation of these new programs. This is an informational item only, and there is no action required from the board, but I will open it up to board comment or question.
Kevin, this is the moderator. I did receive confirmation that NEM stands for Net Energy Metering.
Thank you so much. Any questions or comments from the board?
Yes, I have a question. The solar, so it's the solar complaint form. Is that actually available now? Or was this the draft?
I am quite certain it's on the website now.
Okay. And
Yes, it is.
It is. Okay, good. And is it also available in languages other than English? Because I know we have some of the forms.
Yeah, I don't believe it is at this time. They'd have to use the, I guess, a Google Translate, but it would be something we certainly are looking to do in the future.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Any other board comments? Seeing, hearing none. Shelley, are there any public comments?
I am currently not seeing any hand raises nor any requests for the chat or Q&A.
Fantastic. Chair De La Torre, this concludes the Enforcement Committee update.
Thank you, Kevin. Now, leading us through the licensing and testing portion of our meeting is Licensing Committee Chair Jim Rain. Jim, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, David. Our first item, licensing and testing program update and statistical summary. Starting on page 149 is the licensing overview. Most processing times continue to improve, and the board continues to receive more than 2,000 applications each month. And from January through March, we received an average of 9,900 renewals per month. Justin will provide us a brief overview and mention problem areas he is working to resolve. Justin?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Jim. As Jim said, our applications are looking all right. As Stacy commented earlier in the meeting, we are still trying to get them through the pipeline, but they are coming in at a pretty good clip as they were pre-COVID, apart from the early pandemic months. Moving to page 150, I'll just look at our processing times briefly. This is, I think, the biggest thing that we're still working on. I'll direct your attention to our original exams and our renewals. Our original exams right now are still hovering at 8 weeks. We are finally fully staffed in that unit, and we do expect that to be down by the next time I report to you in the fall. And renewals at the moment is fluctuating between 2 weeks of processing time and 3 weeks of processing time. And I want to thank very much our IT division for continuing to move our renewals online. We're very excited about that. And I think once we actually get that online later this summer, that's really going to help our statistics as well, because it'll reduce our processing workload. Moving on to page 152. This just points out the numbers that Jim already stated. Our renewals are really looking good, which is consistent with Stacy's report earlier today. So we are happy about that. And then with that, our fingerprint processing remains under 2 weeks. Experience verification remains consistent. And the last thing I really do want to highlight for you is page 158. Our license information center, so our call center, is doing remarkably well. You'll see that the March numbers were starting to come down, but they've started to peak back up at 13 minutes and 45 seconds. Since March, we haven't seen an average wait time above 6 minutes. And the longest wait time that I've seen in the last few weeks was around 19 minutes. So no one's been waiting for more than 20 minutes, at least for a month. That's largely thanks to our IT division helping us get our call center online and using our phone system. And that completes my comments. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Justin. Any board member comments or questions for Justin? Right, seeing none. Shelley, do any members of the public have any questions or comments?
I am not seeing any requests through the chat or Q&A and no hand raises.
All right, thank you. Next, we move to the testing program update, which begins on page 162. I would like to point out that staff have made valiant efforts to reduce the testing backlog, and as you can see, over 5,000 exams were scheduled in March. This is very impressive because exam sites are working at 50% capacity due to social distancing requirements. We've seen similar numbers for April and May and currently expect the same or more for June, when social distancing restrictions are expected to be relaxed. Our goal is to conduct 5,500 exams per month to reduce the now 3,000 exam backlog by the end of summer. Please note, if social distancing restrictions are loosened, this backlog could be eliminated in a matter of weeks. Staff is closely monitoring updated guidance by the state on this. And Justin is available if the board has any questions. Any board member questions or comments? All right, seeing none. Shelley, anything from the public?
Also seeing none.
Thank you.